I run a company called Luxurynsight that you will discover when the screen changes color. We are involved in, we developed a data platform and data research services for luxury brands. And we collaborate with luxury brands on a daily basis on how to help them find the right data for the right decision. And then I will give the floor to Michel, who heads Magariba and Luxury, which is part of Dentsu Group, number 3 or 4 biggest communication group in the world. And Michel has a long track record of doing digital for luxury brands. He headed the digital services for Hermès for many years, Lancôme, Christian Dior. I can't name them all, otherwise I will run late after the end of the session. Thank you so much, Katja. So what I wanted to do with you is try to unfrighten you of what digital is for luxury and try to look together of what this means. First, the problem of luxury and digital is that theoretically people from the digital world and the data world consider that luxury people are crazy. And people from the luxury world consider that digital is at best complicated and probably paradoxical. Why? Because their worlds are probably opposites. Luxury is a world of mystery, is a world of emotion, intangible elements, while data, on the other hand, is transparency, is seeing everything at the right time and being very rational. Luxury is for the epifuse, the few clients that can have access and discover this world, while data is basically about and for everyone. Luxury is about creation, it's about having this intuition of knowing that it will work and working with artists that can come up with these new ideas, while data is more or less in digital about analyzing what's going on online, who clicks where and what's doing what, and so on and so forth. So much more demand-oriented. And finally, and maybe that's the most important, luxury is about time. It's about finding a balance between a century-old history and the short pace of fashion, while obviously digital and data are about having everything immediately on your phone. So because they come from opposite world, it's sometimes very hard to bridge the gap and to find a way to integrate digital or use digital as a tool for luxury companies. At the same time, I believe it's a key opportunity for luxury brands to use digital and data in order to renew themselves and improve their business. Because if you think about it, there's no luxury without creation. If you take away creation, there is no luxury anymore. But at the same time, creation is intuition. There's no creation if you don't have this original intuition about what you want to create and how you're going to make luxury. And intuition needs knowledge. When Karl Lagerfeld comes and say, this will be black, I can say too. But I'm not going to be as successful as him probably, because the this should be black is based on having read all the books in the world and looked at all the movies he could look and knowing the music and the culture. And there's all lot of knowledge that is intangible, that is not data, it's not a book, it's not something you can, take into your hand and grasp and see. Generates knowledge that feeds intuition and feeds luxury. Now, what's interesting for you and what's a great opportunity is that data is the new knowledge. You can use this data if you're smart enough or structured enough. The parallel that I like, and that goes in the continuity of what Ines said on Microsoft's behalf, is that data is for me today like oil was 300 years ago. When they discovered oil, they said it's just black water. If you drink it, you get sick. It's useless. So we'd better leave it where it is. But a few guys said, well, let's try to see what we can make out of it. So data today is still an immensely untapped, valuable asset. But the future probably belongs to those who will learn how to extract it and use it. So data is probably the new knowledge. And why luxury brands are discovering it now? Because we always change when we have problems. This is mankind. And we all rediscovered it under the latest political events in a few countries. So when people feel bad or have problems, they try to get into revolutions, okay? Well, luxury has problems right now. Luxury brands are facing increasing complexity because of a lot of elements, and the market is changing very quickly. And why it's very hard for luxury brands to cope up with these changes is because they were not structured to handle these changes. If you look about luxury brands 30 years back, when the industry began to structure itself, luxury brands were selling to a few clients, very wealthy people, in very wealthy countries, few products that their family were doing for decades and decades and decades. And they had no competitors. Because if you only sell luggage to very rich people in Europe and America, and your competitor is selling shoes to rich people in America, you're friends. That's it. You don't have so much competition, right? Now, this is 30 years back. But what happened after is that if you look at how the business structured, they were selling only to a few number of clients, as I said, in a few countries and a few number of products. It was a family business, very product specialized. Hermès was doing a few products in the 1980s. So was Louis Vuitton and all of the other. And they were selling to rich people in rich countries. Luxury was about passion. But then a few smart guys came in the room and say, because there's so much business to do, we may try to boost this and make it a sector or even an industry. And there were three movements that changed this very small sector into a huge industry. The first one is, if we can sell to a few clients very wealthy things, why not sell to the upper middle class? And this is democratization. This is why today we don't only sell to rich people, obviously. Now, if we can sell very expensive things in rich countries, why not go to China or Brazil or India? And this is internationalization. Luxury brand expanding into new markets and new markets until the day that Bain comes and say there is no new markets. How crazy is that? There's no new emerging markets, which by the way could be discussed. But yes, there is some elements here. And then last point, diversification. Luxury brands don't only do the products they were doing for decades. They are now doing everything. All the luxury brands expanded into A-wear, perfume, ready-to-wear. Louis Vuitton this year relaunched perfume, which is the last move of a brand, going into a new product category. And now they all became competitors because they all do fashion, they all do perfume, they all do A-wear, and so on and so forth. So what happens when all of a sudden you have this very centralized business expanding into a huge industry that is basically selling almost everything to everyone, everywhere? It's getting a little complex, right? And that's what happened. Look at the small guy here. The small guy is the CEO of a luxury company. He was very happy. He was very well paid 30 years back. And he was very zen. Now what happened is, through democratization, he has to handle his old consumers, but at the same time, the new consumers. Diversification, he all of a sudden had to handle a lot of products and new products, but also new competitors that were doing his products forever. And internationalization, he has to understand what's going on in China. Chinese globe shoppers, global tourism, currency exchange, CSR, digital, name it. All of a sudden, in one generation, luxury managers had to adapt to a huge number of changes. And because of the luxury culture, which was more offer-oriented than demand, if you compare to a Procter & Gamble or other consumer goods that were used to analyze demand and adapt to this evolution, they all end up being in a situation where they have to handle a huge number of challenges and elements. Now, not happy anymore. So the guy is a little stressed. And we believe that digital and data can help. And I'll show you how. Because this little guy here, not so little, not only he has more and more challenges, but he has more and more data. 30 years ago, 20 years ago, even 15 years ago, the problem was we didn't have enough data. So we had to call IFOP, Ipsos, or whoever, and ask for a questionnaire and get some data. That was the only way for luxury brands to know what was going on. But the problem today is the opposite. We have way too much data around us. Every morning, emails, news, we have too much data that we can't analyze. We don't have enough time. Now what happened when you have too much data and not enough time? I liked the parallel of Floriane this morning, who said that she was a doctor. My parents are doctors, and I believe also I'm a kind of doctor for my guys. But this is what happened when a doctor sees a guy that has a new disease he doesn't know. All right? Every morning, you have a guy coming, and he's saying, okay, my head is very painful, but also my knee. So, okay, well, yeah. So you have, in any decision-making, 4 processes. Extract the data, structure it, analyze it, and make a decision. This works for everything. Should I marry this guy? Should I move and live to London? Any decision, you're going to extract data, structure it, analyze, and make a final call. Now, if every morning someone comes with a new disease you don't know, you're going to take a lot of time asking questions. What about this? What's this? Okay, what is WeChat? Is it a machine, or is it what? Is it a computer, or? Okay, then you structure. When you get the data, you begin to structure a little bit. Then you make your analysis. Should we go or not? Should we go to WeChat, or what's the name? Baidu. Yes, something like this. all right? And then you make the decision. But it's often too late because you run so much time to trying to adapt and get new information that you don't make the call. Now, this is what makes luxury beautiful and very messy. It's perfect or nothing. Luxury has to be perfect. It has to be 100% or you don't do it. So either you do something digital that is amazing or you don't do it. But because to do something amazing, you have to begin somewhere. Now, sometimes we lack time to make good things and we end up not doing it at all. And the test and learn that is very, very close to digital, which is you test and you try and you to adapt and so on, is the opposite of luxury. You don't sell a Hermes bag with test and learn. Okay, this is a very beautiful Birkin. Hold it. If it falls on the floor, bring it back. It's okay. I will change it for you. So there is no test and learn in luxury. It's the opposite. It's learn, and sell. Well, at the end, you don't need the bag anymore. Now, the problem is they don't take a decision anymore. I'll take just one example. We are in data prediction, so we help luxury brands knowing what will be next. So, of course, I based my entire presentation of what was said this morning, not knowing what people would say in the morning, but it worked pretty well so far. So I took the example of Bain, all right? Look here. China is 7% of the market. Europe is 33% of the market. This is Bain figures from this morning, okay? So you look at well and you say, of course, China is 20% of European luxury market. Basic, 7%, 33%. Okay, I round it up. True. But it's a little surprising, by the way. China is 5 times smaller than Europe? Come on. Well, yes, it's true. But the problem is, who buys in Europe? Chinese, obviously. Chinese buy, and that was said this morning as well, 30% of the world luxury goods worldwide, while Europeans make up 20%, which means that Chinese luxury market is 1/5, 20%, but Chinese is 150%. So that raises a lot of questions for luxury brands, okay? If actually Chinese make up 30% of luxury goods, but 75% of it is bought abroad, okay? It's the 23% versus 7%. It's INSEAD, so I can play with figures. It's very cool. So many smart people in the room. Very, very amazing. So if 75% of what you sell is the result of something you invested on a country, how do you do that in a company? Because you have a budget. You work by countries, by region. So you have a budget, you put some money, and you don't know where the results are going. So companies work by region, they work by silos, and that doesn't match. Because the French guy in Paris, the head of Paris, arrives at the end of the year and say, you didn't put any money, but you see how much I sold in Paris? I'm amazing, huh? And the Chinese guys say, well, you know, you put so much money, I didn't sell. Yeah, of course, so you sold to Chinese in Paris. And that raises a lot of questions on the product assortment. Which product you sell in Paris? If 60% of your clients are Chinese, then you need to sell the best sellers for Chinese, not for French people. But what happens if all of a sudden the euro becomes up because the dollar goes down because of elections or whatever, and all of the Chinese all of a sudden go to America? If you don't adapt to all of these very quick changes with data, you're dead. You can't just be intuitive and say, that's going to work out. Now, the reason why it's so complicated for luxury brands is because, as I said, it's a sector that is still very intuition-driven. It's a sector that is structured around people, which is amazing, because we need this intuition, as I said. This is the theoretic organization of a luxury brands, okay? I didn't take one of my clients because I wanted to keep continuing working with them. So this one is headed by Lucas, okay? Theoretic organization. Now, this is the real organization. The real organization is that the guy here, the intern, Josh, is the one we ask everything to. Because Josh has a smartphone. So you want to change something on Facebook? Ask Josh. Josh knows, okay? Josh is very good with Facebook. Josh, where are you? Josh. I want to change something. Oh, I receive a... Josh? Is it he? He's calling me right now, actually. So it's true. I could pick up. It's true. It's a developer. It's one of my Joshes. So Josh is the one you ask everything because he knows, right? Or it's Martin because Martin has a son who has Snapchat. So you need to ask Martin, right? But it's France. So people work 1 day out of 4. So Martin is not here. The entire company stops. And Josh is an intern. So after 6 months, he leaves. Why? This is the way luxury companies work. And I don't like that much. It's taking a lot of time because people have information. It's not spread through the company. Now, the power of data is extremely important. Why? Because, of course, 30 years back, as I said, you had to make decisions based on your intuition. You had no other way. You had no data. What could you do? So Jean-Louis Dumas, for example, an amazing manager who headed Hermès for decades and did amazing work, he had an amazing intuition. He felt where the market was going because he didn't have data. Now, when you base yourself on experience, it's very important, but then you develop some KPIs and systems internally to get some data about who's selling what in which countries and blah, blah, blah. And it's like driving a car and having this, I don't know how you call it in English, retroviseur, to look there. Yes, that's the way. So then you get to this after data period where you can base your decision on facts because you see the fact, right? But the retroviseur, you only see the past. That's what it is. You have the data of the past. Big data is very powerful because you can compare the data of what you did with external data like currency and so on and so forth to try to predict what's going to happen. And then you get to a system that is ideally spreading information through your company and empowers people to better understand what's going on. This is the power of digital and of data. And this is why I believe digital is the future of luxury, and it's the only way. I'm talking here only on strategy, and then we'll talk on the communication perspective. Now, when you do that, something amazing happens. Amazing. Look at him. He was not happy at the beginning, if you remember properly, but now he's spending so much time here that when you give him more information through digital integration, he gets much quicker on finding the right data because he has the software, he has everything to get what he needs. He can make the analysis and he can finally do his work because you pay him only for the orange part. You don't pay him for the first part. You pay him to set up a strategy and run operations and execution. So doing digital integration is the only way to innovate in luxury. And I'll finish with this, which is for me the final conclusion on why luxury brands need to adapt and integrate digitally into their system. Any company in the world is structured, as far as data is concerned, around 3 elements. You have decision makers, so the top managers, the CEOs. Then you have data department and analytics, okay? The CEOs ask the data guy to extract and structure the data. And then you have data analysts and data scientists who structure and create models and algorithms to try to help you out. So they ask them which data is relevant, and then these guys tell them which tool to make it relevant. That's the way data works in a company, everywhere. Now, what happens in luxury? First, there's no data culture. The IT guys in luxury are here to repair the mouse when you don't have a thing in it. That's what they do, literally. And have you ever met a data scientist in a luxury group? One. Have you ever met one? Because I work in digital intelligence, okay? So I work with these guys. I never met one. One. Okay, I met that data guy, yes, of course. So there is no data culture and there is no data specialist in the luxury business because it's more offered and demand oriented. So at the end, you need to change that, and this is what we do every day. This is what we do, every day, in order to provide brands with better measurements of their business, better knowledge of what's going on, so to be able to make better predictions, and finally take better decisions, because we believe that without data, you're just another guy with an opinion.